every single one of us has walked into a property, whether you're looking to buy or whether you're going to visit a friend, and you've walked out of everybody has walked out of that property and either gone, oh, you know, that felt really nice and it felt really nice and homely in there, or God, I really felt like I felt a bit antsy in there, and you don't quite know why. I think it's more apparent when you're looking at buying a home,
Yeah.
and you go into a home and you leave and you're like, that was the one. That was the one. That felt nice. It felt right. It flowed nice. And you might sit there and go, well, why was that? You don't really know, but you just like, that's the one.
Mm-hmm.
So that would point to pretty much what you're talking about, I guess.
Exactly.
That feeling that's in your gut, you don't know why, but it's there.
Yeah, and that's like all those like little things that are kind of unobtainable. And like when I do a thorough energy clearing of a space, it's essentially aligning and allowing all of that kind of bent up negativity to settle and dispel, and allowing for essentially light to come in, or spaciousness, or that feeling. And maybe you'll go to a place and you're like, oh, it's fine. Some places will be like overly heavy, or on the flip side, if you have like a brand new build, it will feel like almost like too sterile and you can't do anything
Yes.
about it. So those are kind of the two extremes of like
Yeah.
overly
Zero
dense.
character, no soul.
Yeah, yeah. And so then it's like, how do you bring in character? How do you bring life to it? Essentially the land's been stripped, like things have been essentially just like demolished, and like it's not alive anymore. Versus the other, there's too much heaviness, there's too much trauma essentially in the place, and you'll feel that too. So those are kind of the two extremes of the spectrum. And then there's the nice middle, of, if you think about being in nature, or being in the redwoods, or being by the seaside, there's this feeling of spaciousness, of calm, and ultimately you're wanting a home that heals, a home that you can thrive in, will be vibrating at a higher frequency than what you are normally living in. And that allows for greater creativity, it allows for greater sleep. It allows for, like, if kids sometimes feel restless, or animals, all of that can do with either psychic activity, or electronics getting kind of in the way, or making it so you can't think quite right. So there's like all of these different like health issues that can be present simply from the energy in your house being off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of similar to, like taking a writer and, they're going to set up their desk with a view, right? So they can see things that helps them with their process. And it's at the end, and it all comes back to that energy, right? What is it that we're looking, feeling, tasting, smelling that's changing the way that we're feeling internally, that then allows us to, be our most creative, or be at most peace, or be
Mm-hmm.
comfortable, or whatever it is, So, yeah, it's interesting because when you first start talking about it, you're like, well, I don't quite understand how this could work. But then when you start comparing it to real life things, it's just how my brain works. I have to compare it to real life, tangible feelings that I have. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I can see this now. So what are some of the, when does somebody know that they need to clear or fix or work on the energy in their property? What's some of the things that they might be experiencing, would you say?
Some of the things I just mentioned, like if you, some rooms, like some places in your house, you're just like kind of like, I just don't like being in that room, or like kids might avoid like
Yeah.
dark hallways or certain closets, especially when younger people will, sometimes be their sensory system of like ideas of ghosts, or things that just don't feel right. Um, Also, like if there's bad reviews, bad tenants. Like, I've chatted with one person, and they, you just have a problem property. Like, if you know that the history of the place used to be with like drug dealers, or people that didn't care about the place, or if there has been, if someone's died in a place, like knowing the history a little bit, like all of those, like pretty much most locations could definitely be used for like a good clean. If you think about, how often,
What's
like,
gone on there? Yeah.
yeah,
Every property's got a history, right?
every property has a history, and most people don't deal with property cleanings. And so, I mean, really, I'd say any place could use one if you were interested. It could definitely benefit. Like, you can always get cleaner and better and brighter. And so I'd say anyone, but there's been things where, especially for people's individual homes, with energy lines and DAOs and clearing some frequencies. Like this person was having knee pain, and then you scan it, and literally there's a negative energy line that is going across their knees, and you clear that from the space, and literally their knee pain stops. Um, there often, when you clear spaces, there sometimes won't be any wildlife around. Like you just won't hear it. Like
Mm-hmm.
I cleared a space with a group a little while ago, and about a year ago, the woman that lived there had a strong affinity for the certain bird that hung around there, and the birds had stopped being there. And we did our clearing, and the next morning the bird came back. And so the idea of like having a space that allows for wildlife, that allows for people to want to gather there, like this is all working on that subtle energy of the space.